Hi, it's Lori, and welcome to Work Past the Record, Episode 2. Today, our episode is going to be Attitude is Everything. Now, I know you've probably heard that 1,000 times. Attitude is everything, but it truly is. So, attitude is a behavior based on your thoughts and emotions. So, if your thoughts are happy and your emotions are elevated, your attitude is going to be a positive one. And it's the same with if your thoughts are negative, your emotions are going to be deflated. And your attitude is going to be pretty poor. So, why is that important? Well, it's important because attitude dictates how your day is going to go, how your life is going to go, how your relationships are going to go, and in this case, how a job interview is going to go. So if you are in the mindset that every job I have applied for, I've been turned down because I have a criminal record, why is this one going to be any different? You're going in with a negative attitude. You're attracting that. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe that what we put out, we get back. So if you're putting out a negative, this isn't going to work for me, I'm just doing it to do it, then that's what's going to happen. And an employer is going to see that. If you go in with, you know what, I've been turned down for X amount of jobs, but I know this one I have a good shot at, and I'm going to give my best when I do this interview, well, then an employer also sees that. They sense it. They know this person really wants a job and they're the type of person we want for our company. So yes, attitude really is everything. I try to tell everybody we all have stuff going on in our lives when we're not at work or we're not with our friends. We have personal things going on. You have to leave that at the door, especially when you're trying to get a job. When I interview people, I gauge how successful they're going to be in the program that we run by how they present themselves in the interview. Some people come in with a great attitude. They're gung ho. They're ready to work. They're ready to prove themselves. They're ready to sell themselves to us. This is why I should have a shot at this program. It's the same thing when I used to interview people before this program. I knew who was taking it seriously. I knew who really was putting their best foot forward. You just can tell. And those are the type of people that you want in your business, in your program, because you know that people with a background, for whatever reason, feel they have more to prove than someone that you just hire off the street with no background. It's not really a chip on their shoulder, it's that they need to prove everyone that has been against them in their life or has no hope in them. It's their way to prove that this is why you should take a chance on me. I find that the people that we put in from my program into stores and into jobs tend to work harder. They're more productive. They have a better attitude no matter what's going on. Because again, they have more to prove than the Joe Smith you hire off the street who's got a degree and no criminal background. He's just coming in to get a job. People with a background tend to not pretend that they know more than what they do. They sell themselves on their true self. That's how they sell themselves to an employer. So when you go into a job interview, it doesn't matter if you have been shot down 10 times before the 11th one that you go into. You still need to go in believing that you are an important part of this team that you're interviewing for. You're going to be the reason that someone gives you a shot. So yes, attitude is everything. And again, it's based on your thoughts and your emotions. Attitude is just a behavior. So, how do you keep that positive attitude when you feel like the whole world is against you? Well, there's many ways to do it. If you know that your thoughts are getting away from you, let's say, and they're turning negative, it's easy to sit here and say, turn them into a positive. But you really need to think, okay, I didn't get that job because I have a shoplifting in my background and I was trying to get a job at a store. They don't trust me. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get a job in a restaurant waiting tables just to have some money coming in. And I'm going to prove that I'm a good employee so that maybe a store will take a chance on me if they see I have this steady work in a restaurant. I get people sometimes that have fraud charges on their record. You know, they come into the store and we're going to teach them the register. What's in the back of your mind? Well, geez, they have fraud charges. Are they going to steal somebody's credit card information? Are we going to start getting calls from irate customers because their car is being used all over the place? That can run through your mind, but the way I look at it is when someone comes in to interview with me, they're showing me what they have done to rehabilitate themselves from those charges. And that's important. So when they come in with this good attitude and this is what I've done, I have no intention of ever going back to that. Why would we not give them a shot at a job? Well, you as the potential employee has to do the same thing. You have to show that you've been rehabilitated from whatever your criminal record is. If it was burglaries, how have you rehabilitated from that? If it is shoplifting, how have you rehabilitated from that? If it's drug use, you were an addict for years, how have you rehabilitated from that? By doing that and showing the positive attitude, an employer may give you that shot that you're looking for. But yes, attitude is everything. If you go in with that chip on your shoulder and treat a potential employer like every other one that has shot you down, they're going to see that and not want you. They're not even going to give you a second chance. They're going to cut the interview short. They're going to say, thank you. We have other people to interview. We will be in touch. You're never going to hear from them again. And if you do, it's going to be a rejection letter like, sorry, we took someone else for the position, but thank you. We'll keep your application on file for X amount of days. Having a positive attitude, being able to show a potential employer that you're worth the shot is everything. So what do you do if you're starting to feel down? Maybe you pray. Maybe you meditate. Maybe you take a walk on the beach. Maybe you blast the music really loud to try to change your mood. You do whatever you have to get your attitude in a better place. Maybe you have somebody that's willing to give you an attitude check like, hey, snap out of it. It's not all downhill. You have to look at the upside of everything. So one of the examples I use in my group is this. If you work in a restaurant and you all pull tips and the busboys are included in those tips and you're in a good spot and you think your thought process is busboys work hard, your emotions are going to be content and your behavior is going to be friendly towards the busboy. It's going to then make your thoughts say, seems fair. It's going to make your emotions satisfied. And then it's going to make your behaviors towards the busboys even better, but you're going to say, I like my job. I know that's a simple kind of example, but that just shows you how it's all connected. So on the flip side of that, if you think you work harder than the busboys and they should not be included in the pool of tips, then you're going to say, well, this doesn't seem fair. Your emotions are going to be agitated. Your behaviors are going to be not friendly towards the busboy, which is going to make your thoughts say, well, this is ridiculous that I have to split my tips with them. It's going to make your emotions angry and it's going to make your behaviors, I hate this job. So you're going to have an attitude when you work. It's so easy to flip an attitude from good to bad and from bad to good. You just have to have the tools to do it. So what I want you to think about is this. If your thoughts are negative, stop them right there. Think about what you're thinking about right at that time. I am sick of people not hiring me because I have a background. Everybody is against me because of it. All right, stop that thought right there. How are you going to flip that thought into a positive? People aren't hiring me because I have a background, but you know what? I can show them that I am not the same person as when I caught those charges. Nobody is giving me a chance. When I put together my portfolio of how I have changed and why I'm worth the shot, they're going to hire me. That's how you change that. Once you change that thought process, your emotions are going to be elevated because you're going from being angry to, you know what? I got this, and feeling a bit more relaxed and a bit more confident. And then your behavior is going to go from being the negative Nelly and being angry and showing that to smiling, the confidence. You're going to walk straighter. You're going to walk taller. You're going to have a light in your eyes that you don't have when you're in the negative mood. And that is going to make all the difference in the world. So yes, again, and I know have said it several times, attitude is everything. It's easy to sit here and tell you guys, you gotta, attitude, blah, blah, blah. But no, it really is. It's everything. Think about this. Think about, when are you happy? What are you doing when you're happy? I'm happy when I'm with my family. Simple. Not really. My family's up in Massachusetts. It's me and my wife here in the state we're in. But when we're all together, I'm at my happiest. So that's what makes me happy. What annoys me? Well, I get annoyed when someone stops right in the middle of the grocery aisle and starts a big conversation with a neighbor and then you can't get by. That's annoying. How do you change that? Excuse me, could you move over a little? I'm just trying to get by. They may not even realize they're blocking the aisle. What else annoys me is when you're in the middle of talking to somebody and then they just go on to a conversation with someone else and treat you like you're not even there. And I'm always like, what just happened? I was in the middle of telling you something and you just left the room to go take a call or to speak to someone else. It's really disrespectful. But do I get angry about it? No, I get irritated with it. So how do I change that? You know what? It doesn't matter. I'll talk to them later or I won't talk to them at all. Let's see if they recognize what they've done. You always have to work both ways on it. Sometimes it's somebody else that is putting your attitude in a place where it shouldn't be. So, you gotta, is it worth it? Can I let it go? Does it really matter? Those are the things to think about. When you make a list of what makes you happy, what irritates you, what makes you feel liked, what makes you think that you're the best candidate for a job, write those things down. Why are you the best candidate for a job? Maybe it's because you're a hard worker, you're a quick learner, you love to learn new things. You'd be an asset to the company because you're a positive influence on people. That's what you want to show them. If you walk in with a scowl on your face and your arms crossed and not wanting to listen and you're slouched over at the interview, and then you're trying to tell an potential employer that you're worth taking the chance on because you're a positive influence on people, you're not showing it. So change it. Sit up straight, smile, make direct eye contact, be positive in your answers to every question they ask, give positive feedback. When was your last job? Well, maybe it was 5 years ago because you were in jail or in prison or you haven't been able to get a job. But if you were working and it was under the table, be honest. I worked a year ago, but it was under the table. I worked for a landscaping company and this is what I did. Can we call them? You can call them. I don't know that they'll verify that I worked for them because it wasn't under the table job, but yes, you can call them. They'll tell you that I was a good employee. You have to have confidence in yourself and you have to believe in yourself so that portrays out in your attitude. The more self confidence you have, the more positive your attitude will be. If you have any doubts about your abilities, about how you're answering questions, that's going to show, and it's going to show hesitation. It's going to show a less enthusiastic attitude. And that is going to be the difference between you getting a second interview or an offer for the job and you not getting a second interview or an offer for the job and getting the rejection letter. It's really important and it's hard, especially for somebody that's had a lengthy incarceration, to have a good attitude when it comes to interviews. You haven't interviewed in a long time, maybe. When it comes to being positive or staying positive, it's tough because you've had the deck stacked against you, per se, for so long. What I always do is I try to make the person feel very comfortable when they come in to interview with me. I tell them about the program. I tell them to tell me about themselves because that's an icebreaker. So when an employer says to you, tell me about yourself, don't jump right into, well, I did 15 years in prison and I got out because, I mm, did a strong arm robbery. No, you want to say, hey, I'm Laurie from Massachusetts. This is what I've done in my life for work. This is what I have for education. Here's some of the certificate programs I've done. Here are some of the civic things I'm involved in. This is how many kids I have. I have 2 grandchildren. I come from a big family. That's what you want to lead with. You want them to know you as a person, not as the person with a background, but who you are as a person. When it comes to the time where they may ask you, do you have a criminal background? Or I see that you have a criminal background that you've told us about. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Yes, I can. Be honest about it. Be right up front. Tell the story. Not the whole story about the whole crime that happened, but hey, I was involved in some bad things. I was arrested for it. I was convicted. I did my time while I was in jail. This is what I did to rehabilitate myself. And then when I got out, I continued. Maybe you were addicted at the time when you got arrested. So, pointing out that, I did NA classes while I was in jail. And when I got out, I continued to do NA classes. I'm very involved in the NA community. I go to X amount of meetings a week. And if I can't make them in person, I do them online. But I make sure that I have all my tools in place because I don't ever want to go back to where I was. It's important to sell yourself. But by doing that, you're showing this positive attitude, right? You're showing an attitude that you are a go-getter. You're not afraid to take the necessary steps to be a better person. So, by having that self confidence, by having those positive thoughts, by having those good emotions, the behaviors you show are positive, and that is attitude. I can't stress that enough, and there's not really a lot you can say about attitude, but you can add in accountability. Accountability strengthens the attitude that an potential employer sees from you. If you're accountable for your actions and whatever happened in your past, and you're accountable for where you're at now, that strengthens, that makes your attitude elevate. You feel better about yourself by being honest. And so many people with criminal backgrounds have been trained to not be honest about their backgrounds, to not be honest about how their background affects them. They've been taught to hide it. I don't want you to hide it. Be open about it, but hold the accountability. We had someone come in one time with domestic violence charges. When we asked the question, what did you learn from your conviction? That person said to us not to trust women. I was dumbfounded. Like, you really just said that in this interview? Not to trust women? Not, I need to pick a better partner. I need to learn to control my anger. Or I have gone to anger management classes and I was addicted at the time and I'm not now. No, not to trust women. Are you kidding me? You had 3 domestic violence charges against him, and that was his answer, not to trust women. Think about your answer before you answer it. When an employer asks you, a potential employer, I should say, asks you an interview question, pause a moment, really think about it, and how am I going to make this sound good? How am I going to make this sound like I'm enthusiastic? How am I going to make this sound like I'm happy to even be here getting this interview? Just pause a minute. They don't expect an answer right off the bat. They expect you to give an answer that is well thought out, well versed, and shows a positive attitude. So we're so quick as human beings to answer right off the cuff. Somebody asks us a question, we feel like we need to answer it right away. You don't. Think about it. Stop, pause, think about it, form an answer that shows a positive attitude. It's so easy to answer something quickly and sound negative about it, sound sarcastic about it, sound cocky about it, and make it negative. But if you stop, pause, think, and form a positive answer, they're going to take you more seriously. So we can't go on and on about attitude because you just can't. What I would say is do an attitude inventory every once in a while. Think about what makes you happy, what annoys you, what makes you excited, what makes you depressed, what makes you feel guilty, what makes you feel liked. Think about those things. What makes you feel accomplished? And just quickly jot down on a paper those questions and answers, and then read them every once in a while. And when you get to the I feel depressed or the negative emotions that you may feel, I feel guilty, I feel depressed, I feel worried, I feel scared. Look at those. And when you write down the answer, say, how can I turn that into a positive? Most people with a background will say, I feel guilty about my past, what I did to my family, what I did to my kids, what I did to my victims. You can't go backwards, right? You can only move forward. So let's say on the I feel guilty, you say, I feel guilty about what I did to my family when I was messing up. Okay, how do you flip that into a positive? I feel guilty about what I did to my family when I was messing up, but now my family can see me as a better person because I'm helping them and I'm hoping to get this job so that I can be a more productive member of society, but I can also be a more productive member of my family. So for every negative emotion, you have to look at how am I going to turn that into a positive? It's not really that difficult to do. You just have to look at the upside of things. I get depressed when I think of my past, but I get excited knowing where my future is going. You see how that works? It's easy to flip your attitude, but attitude is important when you're presenting to an employer. It's important when you're presenting to potential networking people. Let's say you go to a job fair and there's a bunch of employers there, but there's also recruiters. So recruiters aren't working directly for the company, but they work getting employees for companies. You need to present yourself to them as though you're presenting yourself to an employer. You have to be positive. You have to sell your good points. You have to have a good attitude. You have to be enthusiastic. You have to have good thoughts. You have to have good body language. All of that works with attitude. If you're there with a scowl and your arms crossed, like I said earlier, and your eyebrows knitted together because you're in a frown, they're going to look at you and say, "We don't have any positions for you." If you go there with your eyes bright and a smile on your face and you're sitting up straight and you have this glow about you because you are positive, thinking, "I'm getting a job today," they're going to be more likely to present you to an employer and be able to work your background in so that it's not a big deal. Believe me, it happens. We work with people like this all the time. We work with recruiters all the time. They are really good about presenting people with backgrounds to employers in a manner that doesn't make it seem so bad. So I don't have a ton to talk about today, except for the attitude and how it reflects and how it intertwines with thoughts, emotions, and behavior is the attitude. So do this for me over the next couple of weeks. As you start thinking, or as you have thoughts that come into your head, and we all know intrusive thoughts can come in, I want you to stop in the middle of those intrusive thoughts. See how you're feeling as those thoughts are there. So if something comes in that's intrusive and you're feeling anxious about it or angry, stop the thought and turn it into a positive. Turn it around and see how your emotions change. If you can turn it into a positive and your emotions start to elevate a little bit, think about what your behaviors are going to be. That's what it all comes down to. Attitude is everything, but you're the one that makes it everything. Nobody can control your attitude but you. Nobody can control your thoughts but you, and nobody can control your emotions but you. Remember, thoughts equals emotions equals behavior equals thoughts equals emotions equals behavior. It's I would say a circle, but it's actually like a rectangle. Your thoughts influence your emotions, which influence your behaviors, which then influence your thoughts again, which influence your emotions again, which influences your behaviors again. We could say it's a vicious circle, but it's not. It's more like a rectangle. So remember that whatever you're thinking is how you're going to feel, is how you're going to act. And that's what the outside world sees. Your emotions are what you feel inside, but your behaviors are what everybody sees on the outside. So if somebody says, geez, what's with the attitude? Think about it. What am I feeling right now that I'm setting off this kind of a vibe? And how can I change that? It happens. It happens with me. It happens with anybody. It's just a normal part of life. But being aware of it and being able to curb that and change it and flip it around into something more positive, that's the goal. That's the tricky part. That's the part that you need to practice. That's the part that you need to perfect. There is no such thing as perfection, right? But perfect to the best of your ability. So when you present yourself to employers, you are the candidate that they're going to remember because they're going to say, that guy or that lady came in. And even with everything they've had go on in their life, they are positive, they are enthusiastic, and they are somebody I want for my company. Just remember that. Pay attention to your emotions. And if someone points them out, immediately say, I didn't realize I was putting that vibe out. How can I change it? Attitude is everything. Everybody have a great 2 weeks. I'll see everybody. No, I'll talk to everybody in 2 weeks, and we will probably be discussing communication in a couple of weeks, professional communication and how we should do that. And if you have any comments or you have anything you want to hear about, drop a line in the comment section, okay? Have a great week, everyone.